Scarlett Evans, Simon's perfect girlfriend, had just killed a man. The panic in her voice was palpable as she begged, "Simon, I can't go to jail. You have to help me, please." Her face was streaked with tears, fear consuming her. Simon, ever the doting boyfriend, stood silent, his mind already spinning a solution, one that wouldn't involve Scarlett facing a prison sentence. Instead, Zara Cole, would be their scapegoat. I was the easy pick. Simon always painted me as the desperate girl who'd do anything for money. I had been complicit for years, covering up their petty misdeeds in exchange for cash, but this was murder. When Simon called me to his house, I knew something terrible was coming. The air inside was thick with tension. Scarlett was on the floor, crying, her parents watching me intently. "Zara," Scarlett sobbed, crawling towards me, clutching my pants. "Please, you have to help me. Just this one last time. I'll give you whatever you want." I stared down at her, my stomach twisting in knots. Simon stood by the door, cold and calculating. "Zara, name your price," he said, his voice void of any emotion. "This is crazy. Scarlett killed someone, and you expect me to take the fall? I'm not going to jail for this," I snapped. Scarlett's parents exchanged a glance. Her father stepped forward, his voice cold and businesslike. "We can't afford a scandal. Name your price, and we'll make sure you're well compensated." Simon leaned closer to me, his eyes narrowing. 3 years, Zara. I'll make sure you only get 3 years in prison. You'll come out rich, set for life. I felt sick. Simon was willing to sacrifice my life to keep Scarlett's reputation intact. "This isn't negotiable," he added, his tone icy. "Either you agree, or we'll make sure you disappear." I was trapped. The weight of his words, the cold stares from Scarlett's family, it was suffocating. After a long pause, I finally nodded, knowing I had no other choice. "Fine, but you'd better keep your promise, Simon. If you don't, I'll make sure you regret it." 3 years later, Simon kept his word. My sentence was reduced to attempted murder, and I was released from prison. But my time in that cell had changed me. No longer the naive girl who would do anything for money, I returned home with one goal: to make them pay for what they did to me. Simon didn't pick me up when I was released. Instead, he called later, offering weak excuses. "Scarlett's sick," he said, but I didn't care. "Simon," I interrupted, "the contract has expired." There was a long silence before he finally spoke. "Can I renew it? I'll pay more." "I don't want your money," I replied coldly, but Simon didn't take no for an answer. Within hours, he transferred 10 times more than what he had paid me before. It was clear, he and Scarlett were terrified I'd come after them. But the money did nothing to quell my anger. In fact, it only fueled my determination. I didn't want their hush money. I wanted justice. I spent weeks planning, gathering information. Scarlett was the weak link. If I could get to her, I could take them both down. One evening, Simon showed up unannounced, standing under the dim streetlight outside my house. "Zara, let's talk." He called up to my window. I didn't want to see him, but I needed answers. I went downstairs, wrapped in a thin sweater, and confronted him. "You know I didn't deserve prison," I said flatly. Simon smiled, his face a mask of arrogance. "Zara, you saw what money can do. Why are you fighting it?" I looked him dead in the eye, my voice calm but firm. "Simon, you won't have the last laugh. You think you've won, but you haven't. This isn't over." His smile faltered for a moment, then returned, cruel and mocking. "If I got you in once, I can do it again." I didn't flinch. "Why do you think Scarlett doesn't want to be with you? There's more going on than you realize." Simon's eyes darkened, and in a flash, he lunged forward, his hand wrapping around my throat. "Shut up. You have no right to speak her name." I gasped for air, my mind spinning as I struggled to stay conscious. "You're pathetic," I choked out, and he let go, stepping back with a twisted smile. "Do you want to know who Scarlett killed?" Simon asked, his voice low, almost teasing. I stared at him, my heart pounding. "It was the homeless man who used to sit outside our school," he said, his grin widening. "Remember him? The one you always gave food to?" My blood ran cold. I had known that man, a kind soul, who had fallen on hard times. The realization hit me like a truck. Scarlett had killed him, and I had taken the fall for her. Simon leaned in close, his voice a whisper. "You were the only one who cared about him, Zara. That's why it had to be you. No one else would have fought as hard as you to clear their name." I felt dizzy, my mind reeling from the revelation. They had chosen me because they knew I'd care enough to investigate, but time had erased any chance of finding evidence. "You're smart," Simon said, his tone smug, "but time is on our side. You'll never prove anything." He reached into my purse and pulled out the small recorder I had hidden there. In one swift motion, he snapped it in half and tossed it to the ground. "Nice try, Zara, but you can't beat me," he said, his voice dripping with confidence. I stared at the broken pieces of the recorder, my anger boiling inside me. Simon thought he had won, but he had just made a fatal mistake. He had underestimated me, and that would be his downfall. As he walked away, I whispered to myself, "This isn't over, Simon, not by a long shot."
Search 148322 on Novel Short to read book for free.